concept today we are learning is how to increment sequence to a given value. When we talk about this concept, how to increment sequence to a given value, we usually take problem scenarios wherein a sequence during migration or replication is not properly being migrated from the source to the target. During those scenarios wherein there is a sequence, that sequence is existing on the source, there is a sequence that is existing on the target. The sequence on the target is actually a copy of the sequence on the source, but the sequence last number has issue. It means sequence on the target has a problem. A problem is it is less than the sequence on the source. So how to increment the sequence to a given value? What I mean to say is, if the sequence on the target is having less last number, then how to make that last number same as that of source sequence last number. We have three ways of doing it. Let's discuss on the very first way. I hope you understood about this scenario or the concept wherein I have written how to increment the sequence next val to a given value. Usually higher value, lower value is not possible. Okay, it means the sequence next val on the source, for example, is 10, and the sequence next val on the target is 1. So how will I make the sequence on the target to the same value as that of sequence on the source? Steps are as follows. I am assuming my sequence name is SE1. I am selecting the sequence name, minimum value, maximum value, last number from the devious sequences where the sequence name is SE1. And as you can see, my last number is 192. My last number is 192. Now, I want to increase it by 8. So the command is alter sequence SE1 increment by 8. Remember, I am here incrementing my sequence next val to 8. This is an example. It can be any number. Take a scenario. As I said, my source sequence next val is 10. My target sequence next val is 1. In that case, here I will increment here by 9 because 10 minus 1 is 9. So you always need to find out what is the difference between the source sequence next val and the target sequence next val, and the difference you have to write here. So randomly I want to increase this sequence SE1 incremented by 8. So once I fire this command, my 192 is now going to be how much? 199. Okay, so usually it is 192 plus 8, 200 minus 1. So 199, this is my last number. What I mean to say is, if I am inserting any value from this sequence using SE1 dot next val, I am going to get 199. So the last number is stating of devious sequences that what your next val is going to be, that is the last number. Remember, the moment I find SE1 dot next val, it means the sequence is now incremented to 199. important thing to remember, if I put my sc1.nextval from dual once again, my sequence will be incremented by 8. It means 199 plus 8. It means it's going to be incremented each time by 8. Now, I fire the command. What my next number is going to be? 207. 199 plus 8. 207. Now, I am bringing back my sequence increment by 1. Usually, all the sequences are incremented by 1. Because I want to increment my sequence to a given number, that is the reason I incremented it first by 8. First by 8. I incremented 8. Then I generated the next value. So I got the next value from sequence. Then I'm bringing back my increment to 1. So that gives a jump to my sequence increment. Okay, let's understand how. I am firing this command and I am seeing now 200, not 208. As I said, this is going to be your next val. It indicates that what is going to be next value based on the increment. Because I changed my increment to 1, actually my next value is 199. So post 199, as I increment it by 1, now my DBA sequence is saying that my next val, if somebody is using either in select statement or in insert statement or modify statement, whichever statement, is going to be incremented by 1, so that is 200. 199 plus 1 is 200. Now select star from T1. I have 5 records. I am saying insert sc1.nextval. What is going to be inserted? 200. Let's see. 200. Now I hope you understand this method. What you understand by this method? Always find out the difference between the source sequence and the target sequence. That by that particular difference, you increment first. Like as I incremented here. Okay. So here I'm just writing. This is assumed that difference between source and target sequence. Clear? Okay. This is the method number 1. Now I am coming back to the method number 2. I am explaining that by example. What is the other way of incrementing a sequence next val when there is a difference between source and target sequences? With a small variation, same as that of previous example. I have a last next val 200. What I am doing is, now I am incrementing it by 100. Then I am seeing the next val, which is going to be 300. If somebody is using next val, they are going to get 300. So what I am doing is, I am firing once again the number that is incremented by 100, 400. Then I am incrementing it by 1. So after 400, I am incrementing it by 1. But actually my value is 300, right? So after incrementing by 1, now it is saying that because you incremented it by 1, it's 301, not 400. So next val, the sequence next val is now 301. Now each time I am putting next val, it is going to be incremented by 1. I hope you understand this example. Select star from T1, 200, and after that I inserted a value that is 306. In a select statement I used, now in the insert statement I used, so post select statement, whatever the value in the insert statement that is incremented by 1 is inserted. I hope you understand this example very clearly. Next example. In many scenarios, we usually drop the sequence and create the same with the new start with. Remember, you are changing the start with of the sequence. How will you do it? Take for example, you are creating a sequence, start with 1, increment by 1, no cache. We are not discussing about cache now. We will see that in the next video. I am creating a table, I am inserting in the table next val. I keep on inserting, I committed, then I got 3 records. Now, due to some purpose, I am dropping the sequence. Now assume that this purpose is on the target wherein the sequence is migrated, but next val is wrong. In the example 1 and 2, I have shown how to increment to the difference of that particular sequence. But in this scenario, what we are doing is we are dropping the sequence and we are trying to create the sequence with the same name once again, but this time starting with the number, the very next number, that is 4. So for that purpose, I am actually taking what is the last value out in that particular table. Remember, here I am trying to compare myself with the table. If you already have a table and the table is showing that the maximum next val is being used is with the max command also you can put. Here only 3 IDs are there, so I am just using select star. You can put select max ID out from the T1 in order to find out in that particular table what is the max sequence value which is being used. Okay. Then I am dropping the sequence. Post dropping the sequence, if further inserts happen, it will say sequence does not exist. So I recreated the sequence, this time just after that value, max value, the very next one is the start with. Then increment by 1. Then when I am using insert into next sequence 1, that's it. I keep on inserting the records. This is the second method of incrementing next val. It entirely depends which option we are using. Example 4. We can use a while loop if we don't want to take a risk, and we know that we have starting sequence number, which may be the sequence number from the max value generated out from the table which is using that sequence. Okay, so in your table usually people keep the ID column or any such column which is using sequence value, and we got that particular value, and we know that to what value that particular sequence should be incremented exactly. So we can write a while loop like so, and we can simply increment the sequence to a given value. Remember, in this example I am using next val 2 times. It means in the output screen I am going to see 300, 302, 304, 306, 308 like so. Why? Because here next val is 301, here next val is 302. I am actually displaying 302, not 301. That is the reason. So anyway, our purpose is to increment the sequence to a given value when this loop ends, and post that when I say insert into T1 values sequence next val commit, I am going to get the record that is 502. Why 502? You must be thinking that it should be 500, right? No, here the output put line is 500. Next time when the while loop ran, the cell 1 dot next val, because here it reached to 502, and 502 is not less than 500. That is the reason we got the row inserted. No, sorry, my mistake, See, here the put line is actually 500. This loop is running continuously, and very last value is 500. When the loop was going up above, it is actually sc1 dot next val is 501, so 501 is less than equals to 500, so loop came out. Then when I inserted, I again use sc1 dot next val, so it is 500. Okay, I'm just correcting myself. So these are all the three methods which we usually use to increment the sequences.